I love the Crash Bandicoot games, both as a memory of my childhood and the remakes we've got a few years ago. It was a blast replaying them. The platforming is tight and snappy, their levels are colourful and diverse. You can play it casually or go for a myriad of completionist goals like box jams and time trials. Now, the difficulty of these goals and even the base game varies quite a bit between the installments, but it always felt like a good level for my personal taste. Most of the challenge in the Crash games is derived from the tight level design and the obstacles therein, but there are some other factors controlling the difficulty. The Crash games use lives. Die often enough in a level and you get booted to the game over screen, losing all the progress you've made since the last save point. Now, this practice might already be outdated by itself. Game Maker's Toolkit has an amazing video on this, link in the description, so I won't be tackling these. What I will talk about is another interesting mechanic, the Aku Aku masks. So this guy here is Aku Aku. He's a witch doctor spirit living in a wooden mask and one of Crash's many companions. And I absolutely hate him. Well, that's not quite true. I hate how he's forced upon struggling players, almost like an insult. Let me explain. From a gameplay perspective, his job is to hide in these crates. Yeah, that's mostly what he does on his own anyways. However, should a player deign to destroy a crate with his face on it, he will escape his cubic prison and instead be eternally tethered to the mortal coil of a bandicoot. I mean, he will follow Crash around and protect him from any further damage. Being hit while Aku Aku is around will no longer result in instant death, but instead will grant you a brief invincibility period and destroying Aku Aku instead. Yeah, I mean, that still sounds pretty morbid. But anyways, this additional health point allows developers to strategically place these boxes prior to challenging sections to give the player some breathing room. It also gives the players a choice on how they might use it. Of course, most commonly you would try to just survive until you take damage and use it as a failsafe if you mess up. But you could also strategically get hit at an opportune time and use invincibility to clear a difficult section you would otherwise have struggled with. This mechanic also extends if you manage to grab more than one mask without getting hit in between. For the second, you simply get a further health point. Now you need to take damage 3 separate times before losing a life. However, gaining a third mask changes the gameplay up completely, putting you in a temporary super mode of sorts, where you are invincible and a mere touch will obliterate enemies and boxes alike. This state usually lasts around 20 seconds before reverting back, leaving you with your previous 2 masks. Interestingly, these masks can also be transformed between levels, so if you performed particularly well in one level, you might make your life easier in another. Additionally, this gives the player the ability to go back to an easier level, collect some masks, and take them into a later stage. A great little trade-off of investing some time to gain an advantage. Well, all of that sounds pretty good so far, so what exactly am I rambling on about here? Take, for example, this situation later on in the game. A challenging level that some of you might already know. You just retried this checkpoint a few times over and your life is slowly dwindling. You could now go back and decide to gather some mask power-ups and retry the level, risking losing a mask earlier on, or keeping it around and getting advantage here. Or you could keep powering on, playing the level as it's originally intended, even if that might cause you to get a game over. Well, for me, I usually like the challenge, so I keep going on and... Wait, what's that? Where did that guy come from? What are you doing here? So these right here, those are the masks I hate. I call these bastards pity masks, because that's just what they are. So the game notices that you're struggling, pities you and hands these out to you as in, we see that you're not good enough to play this the proper way, so here have a crutch. And I despise that. It immediately takes away player agency. Imagine if you were doing something else, like learning to become an artist, and you're struggling with the line art. You keep drawing the same picture over and over and over again to improve, and out of nowhere somebody slaps the pencil out of your hand and it's like all like, oh, it's clear that you're not good enough for pencils yet, here have some finger colors, and then they run off with all the other art supplies and leave you to it. Like, what the heck? You went through all the trouble earlier to incorporate the masks and add player agency to it, and then you just remove all the strengths of the game just when it shines the most? Precise positioning of mask before difficult sections? Nah, obsolete. Collecting masks from older levels and bring them here? Nah, don't need that, just die often enough you get one for free. Using your masks strategically? Why even bother if you can just face tank everything if you die often enough? This is infuriating. For me, the most enjoyable parts of games are the ones that really challenge me. There's this great chart that shows when flow happens to players. There's this sweet spot between challenging, but not too challenging. For me, the most fun part to be at is right at the top edge here, when it's being very difficult, but not quite difficult enough. So in other words, precisely those moments where I would die a lot. Now, just when I'm really enjoying my time, struggling, learning, improving, boom, all of a sudden it's taken away from me and I'm launched down all the way to easy mode. Heck, even Devil May Cry with its infamous "you unlocked easy mode" pop-up gives you the option to say no. Crash does not. It just rips out all the player agency in the worst possible way. Now, I do get why they added the feature. It's precisely what the flowchart was about earlier. If players find themselves too high up on a scale, they might lose interest and get frustrated, so they wanted to add a way to bump it down before it got there. That's fine. Adding different difficulties for different players is a great feature. People enjoy games in different ways and providing that option is great. But that's just it. It should be an option and not forced upon the player. While this whole system seems designed to help players have fun, it was absolutely detrimental to my personal experience. It felt so condescending. And they don't even stop there. If you die often enough with already having one mask, they just give you two. And if that's not enough, they just add new checkpoints into the game. Like, look at this, compare these two crates. Before it was a question mark crate, now it's a checkpoint crate. So eventually I grow really annoyed. Because as soon as the checkpoint crate spawns, I don't want to destroy it because I don't want to use the checkpoint. But if I don't, I can't get the aforementioned box check anymore. So I find myself restarting the level, and that's when the worst part of it kicks in. This crutch that they duct taped onto you without consent is permanent. Yes, permanent. The game saves your death for each individual sections, and once it deems that this section is too difficult for you, it will permanently decrease the difficulty. If you load back into the level, you'll spawn with the mask and the checkpoint's already there. The only way to get rid of these crutches is to just delete your save file and start over from the beginning. What is so frustrating about this is that it would be so simple to just add a toggle in the options to turn it off. Enable it by default, sure. But do give me the option to choose if I want to play the game the way you initially designed it to be played, or if I want additional aids. This just really riled me up every time I replay the games. But I guess it's important to get a lesson out of this. The important thing here is for aspiring game developers like me to see how it could be improved. Just like how lives might be an outdated mechanic, maybe adaptive difficulties without player agency are too. Just look at how Ghost of Tsushima handles it instead. At any point in the game, you can go into the options and change difficulty. No penalty, no strings attached, no trophies lost. A section is too easy for you? Just turn up the difficulty. A section is too hard? Turn it down again. Adapt the game to how you think it's fun. This is amazing. And while we're at it, I should also mention that they have additional options to make combat even easier with timings and such, and a whole host of other accessibility options to enable. All of these things are great, and none of them are forced upon you, and you can change them at any time, however you wish. So if you want to take away anything from this video, let it be that there are all often better options. Player agency matters a lot, and no, you know what? Fuck pity masks!